A new Ryan Reynolds film? Yeah, I'm in. It had quite the delay, but Free Guy is finally arriving. Was this video game-based movie worth the wait? A bank teller discovers that he's actually an NPC, or non-player character, inside a brutal open-world video game. Ryan Reynolds plays Guy, a non-player character in this open-world game called Free World. There are all kinds of chaos that goes on around him as he goes about his day, which is repeated ad nauseum. Well, at least it's repeated for him. Luckily, the story gives us a very small taste of the repetition and then breaks out of that really quickly to then focus on Guy. He wears a blue shirt and khakis and works very boringly as a bank teller. Now there's a small feeling of The Truman Show mixed with Groundhog Day, but really this has a life of its own away from those stories. Guy accidentally acquires sunglasses from a player, which then allows him to see all the items within the game, and this is when it gets really fun. The special effects are really well done and they look great. The amount of chaos that erupts around the players is also insane and it's entertaining. Unfortunately, most of it doesn't need to be focused on. It's there to add texture to the story, but it isn't much of a main focus, save for the pertinent portions later on in the film. And this is good because if the story were only to focus on the craziness of the action within the game, it would be pretty shallow and have nowhere to go, which would then get boring rather quickly. Jodie Comer plays both an avatar inside the game and a real-life human who's playing that game. She, along with Keery, Utkarsh Ambudkar, Lil Rel Howery, and Taika Waititi, round out the cast. This has a surprising amount of heart to it. Now, I expected sarcastic humor and wonderful comedic timing from Reynolds, but I wasn't expecting an emotionally driven story that felt great and was touching. It turned out to be a really well-rounded film with a great balance of humor and heart, and then exciting action with a touch of suspense. There are several cameos in this, which are a lot of fun. Now, many are just voices, but there are one or two with the actual actors. And one in particular was extremely touching, and there were audible ahs that you could hear at my screening. If you're a gamer, you'll also recognize a few streamers that are featured as they provide real-world commentary on what's going on inside the Free World game. Now, as the story goes along, we can really be drawn into Reynolds' character, Guy. He's likable, friendly, and really just somebody in search of someone to make him feel alive. And Reynolds is everything I expected him to be in this. He's playing to all of his strengths, which is why he's so wildly popular with his mildly self-effacing humor and perfect comedic delivery. Now, I don't know the man personally, but I get the sense that we're now just seeing Ryan Reynolds on screen. He's not really acting at this point, but instead just being himself. To complement Reynolds in the comedy, they team him with Lil Rel Howery, and those two together work just so well. Howery is dryly funny, and his comedic delivery works perfectly with Reynolds. The two have great chemistry together, and I found their interactions to be a lot of fun. Taika Waititi is bizarre and plays the antagonist well. And I'm curious if there are moments where he's just allowed to ad-lib, because at points, he kind of just goes off the rails, but in a good way. He plays his character to be more of a caricature, and it works. Now, Keery surprised me here. I've liked him in the things I've seen him in, which mainly consists of Stranger Things, but he held his own and played his character with both drive and confidence. And I love that we also get to see some growth in his character as well as his ability to drive a romantic element. And as much as I loved watching all of them on screen, Jodie Comer stole the show for me. She is charismatic, funny, sweet, vulnerable, and terribly tough. She's a comedy, romance, action star all rolled into one in this, and she executed them all with ease. She's sympathetic when she needs to be, but also kicks serious butt when it's called for. She's able to harness a fierceness in her eyes, but then in the next moment takes on this softer side that just draws us in with her vulnerability. Now, the story moves fairly quick. From just about the very beginning, the story is hitting the ground running. The action and drive keep the pace at a pretty quick clip. Now, there are a few moments, though, towards the middle to the final third that do slow down a bit as the story dives into its emotional core. But those slower moments aren't boring or unnecessary. But you might feel the slowdown in comparison to the rest of the movie where that pace is faster. And while I haven't seen it, I have heard that Space Jam is a ridiculous and disgusting display of intellectual property, where they splatter their characters all over the arena during the basketball game. In Free Guy, they use IP reservedly and effectively, making it absolutely hilarious when small portions of the properties are brought out. And when a few of them happened in my screening, the theater broke out in cheers and applause. I really did have a lot of fun with this. The comedy, action, special effects, and heart all work to build out a story that centers around the virtual world of video games, but is about so much more. Unexpected cameos and the intelligent use of IP help to make this both memorable and exciting. And while Reynolds, Howery, Keery, and Waititi are fun, the standout is Jodie Comer, encompassing so many wonderful traits to create a character that is powerful and strong with a vulnerable and softer side. This is what summer blockbusters are all about, being invested in a story that can make you laugh and keep you excited while having a ton of fun. If you're able, I suggest seeing this one in the theater because the spectacle deserves it. There's no sex or nudity, but some profanity and a ton of video game violence. I give Free Guy 4.5 out of 5 couches. What's your favorite Ryan Reynolds movie? I mean, he's been so great in so many, that might be a tough one, but I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.